Have everyone's attention? Thank you. If you would please call the roll, Mr. Kern.
I need motion first.
Oh, motion to reconvene the meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Valentine. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. De Silva. Please call the roll.
Mr. Valentine,
Yes.
Mrs. De Silva,
Yes.
Mrs. McLean,
Yes.
Ms. Seward,
Yes.
and Mrs. Messick.
Yes. We now have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Mr. Page, if you would like to come forward with the students from Eli Penny. Oh, awesome.
All right, before we start the pledge, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the group. Thank you for having us here tonight, Dr. Barchhausen and Board of Education. This is our Pause Leaders group. They embody the characteristics of our school community. They are a group of 4th and 5th graders nominated by their teachers to ensure that their student voice is heard in our building. They're involved in school and making school-wide decisions, and they help us contribute to school spirit and engagement and model that community service that we're trying to instill in our students at Eli Penny. I'm going to introduce Mrs. Thrush and Mrs. Moy to talk a little bit about what introduce the students and talk about a couple things that they've done this year.
Starting on the right side, we have Emmeline Allen, Montana Lloyd, Piper Sprin, Jonathan Hall, Matthew Ye, Jackie Johnson, Brielle Burge, Jacob King, and Jade Brook. These are an exemplary group of students. That just a few quick examples of things that we've accomplished this year. We've been able to survey our student body to just review different results of things that students are noticing around the school. And we, as a group, meet monthly and can review and problem solve of things that we're noticing around the school. We help prep for events like our Panther Huddles and Penny Has Hearts, which this year we supported the Ronald McDonald House. And then we also promote our pause behaviors to press pause, accept responsibility, work together, and self-reflect by creating videos for our morning announcements that our student body watches. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bring them over here for a picture.
Come over here, guys. This is massive.
You guys did a great job.
Might have to make a second row. Jacob, come in the front. Jacob, come in the front. Make a second row. There we go.
You were only taller than some of us. There you go. Piper, you want to come right here? All right. Here, you can squeeze in.
You're gonna take a step back. Put two in front. There you go. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. You're welcome.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Good job. Guys, when you make the parts away, head out. Sorry.
Approval of the regular minutes. It is recommended to approve the February 9th, 2026 and February 23rd, 2026 regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. De Silva. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Seward. Please call the roll.
Mrs. De Silva,
Yes.
Ms. Seward,
Yes.
Mrs. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Valentine,
Yes.
and Mrs. Messick.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. On to our March Golden Shamrock winners. What? Oh, did I miss that? Sorry, my bad. Also need to approve tonight's agenda, so recommend the approval of agenda as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. De Silva. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. McLean. Please call the roll.
Mrs. De Silva,
Yes.
Mrs. McLean,
Yes.
Miss Seward,
Yes.
Mr. Valentine,
Yes.
and Mrs. Messick.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Now on to the Golden Shamrock.
Good evening, everyone. It's a special night. We have 3 Golden Shamrock Awards to give out tonight. The Golden Shamrock Award was started in 1990, and it was founded by Ed Pitnaki, an active community member in Dublin as well as business owner. This award was created to recognize staff members in our district who've made outstanding contributions and have had a significant impact on the work that we do each day. So tonight we have 2 award winners for March, as well as an award winner from last month who was unable to attend at that time. At this time, I'd like to ask Susan Wittig, principal of Hopewell Elementary, to come to the podium to say a few words about Tyra Galloway, who received a Golden Shamrock Award in February.
Good evening. It's an honor to share with you why Ms. Tyra Galloway is so deserving of this Golden Shamrock Award tonight. First and foremost, Tyra is an exceptional teacher who pours her heart into her students every single day. She's student-centered, inclusive, engaging, and deeply committed to helping her students grow, not just academically, but also into kind, amazing, and confident students. What truly sets Tyra apart is the way she sees a need and takes action. Several years ago, she had an idea that has now become a beloved Hopewell tradition, the Gratitude Gift Shop. Because of Tyra's vision and her leadership, over 2,000 Hopewell students have had the opportunity to select and wrap a free gift for someone that is special in their lives that they would like to show gratitude toward. The gift shop experience teaches our students all about generosity, empathy, and gratitude, and it ensures that every child can participate meaningfully. The joy this brings our students is something our entire Hopewell staff looks forward to every year. Tyra does all of the behind-the-scenes work, and trust me, there's a lot of it. Organizing donations, coordinating volunteers, creating lessons, setting up a giant shop, ensuring the experience is inclusive and purposeful for all of our students. She does it not for recognition, but because she deeply believes in our kids and our community. Beyond Hopewell, Tyra's impact stretches across Dublin City schools. She serves on our Dublin Education Foundation Board, is active in the Dublin Parents of Black Students Association, supports Dublin Scioto as a class liaison and event planner, coaches her son's many sports teams, and continues to give back, not only as an educator, a parent, and most importantly, a mom. Above all, Tyra leads with her heart. She is generous with her time, supportive of her colleagues, and respected by students, families, and staff. Our school and our entire district are better because of Tyra Galloway. Please join me in congratulating Mrs. Galloway, a truly deserving recipient of the Golden Shamrock Award.
Thank you so much for this award. I'm truly honored. I have to admit it's kind of funny standing here because it's just awkward for me to talk in front of a lot of adults in the first place, but also because I feel like I'm getting all the credit for a group project. I really see myself as more of a vessel for an idea that really came to life because of talking with some of my coworkers about it, and it's really been successful because of all the work that my amazing staff at Hopewell puts into it by not just donating physical gifts, but also the gift of time. We set it up on a Sunday, and they just really have gotten behind it. I'm also really grateful to work for Susan because she's the kind of leader who trusts people, encourages ideas, and somehow makes us all feel brave enough to say them out loud in the first place. So thank you.
Next, I'd like to ask Jacqueline Pallone, principal of Riverside Elementary, to say a few words on behalf of award recipient Jennifer Vetras.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank the Board of Education for having us here this evening, and of course, Dr. Marshausen. Thank you so much. I'd like to share a few words about Jen Vetras. Quiet leadership. A green Subaru at our building at 7:30 a.m. It doesn't leave until 5 p.m. most days. Participating in a summer phone interview from Maine to make sure we hire the best candidate for our students. 5th grade teacher, May, 10:30 p.m., still cheering on our students to win a dodgeball tournament. And we won. Evenings spent seeing our students and former students play soccer, in an orchestra concert, or play. Sunshine Committee coordinator, science club teacher, safety patrol coordinator, district teacher piloting My View curriculum, mentor to new teachers to our building every single year. 20 years of teaching at Riverside Elementary School, teaching generations of Riversiders, a cornerstone of Riverside Elementary School. Most importantly, a safe space where students and teachers can go at the end of a long day. Please join me in celebrating this well-deserved Golden Shamrock for Jen Vetras.
I just want to thank the Board of Education and for the countless teachers that I have had the privilege of working with throughout my years in Dublin. I am the teacher I am because of them. A special thank you to Jacqueline and Aaron for supporting me and encouraging me, to all my family that I'm grateful to call mine, both near and far. And most of all, I want to thank the staff and the families of Riverside Elementary. It is truly a joy and an honor to serve this community. We talk a lot about having a sense of belonging, and I knew Riverside was my home the moment I walked through the doors all those years ago. So thank you again for this recognition. Thank you.
And then last but not least, I'd like to invite Katie O'Neill, principal of Sells Middle School, to share a few words about our second March Golden Shamrock recipient, Melissa Voss.
All right, Shorty McShorterson here. Good evening, board and Dr. Marshausen. Quick story. When we received the email about Melissa Voss receiving this award, my secretary immediately ran into my office and we were both tearing up. We were so excited. This award is so well deserved. Melissa had over 25 students and teachers write letters about her, and I want to read an excerpt from one of them because I think it describes Melissa perfectly. Melissa goes above and beyond in all aspects of her career every single day. As a teacher, Melissa is compassionate, innovative, and positive. Every day, she is a cheerleader to each of her students' success. She also is the first person to troubleshoot and find solutions to student needs. As a colleague, Melissa is the ultimate thinking partner. She builds up others around her by offering positive feedback and supports her PLC with great ideas and communication. As a friend, Melissa is the greatest support anyone could ask for. Her thoughtfulness and kindness is an asset to any setting. I'm lucky that I am supported by a person like her in my building. I feel the same way. As a first-year principal, I cannot say thank you enough for all your support and for all you do for our building. Congratulations.
Well, I should have done some pre-reading because I didn't expect to get emotional. Teaching is a team sport, and this award means quite a bit because it comes from my colleagues. And, you know, I don't do anything in isolation. It's my colleagues that allow me to be me, and our leaders that allow us to be us for all the good that we do. So thank you for the recognition tonight.
Now we would like to recognize the Dublin-Scioto High School competition cheer team, state champions.
As they're walking out, I'll go ahead and get started. Good evening. My name is Nick Magistrali. I'm the proud athletic director at Dublin-Scioto High School and joined this evening by Principal Mr. Thomas Cochran. On behalf of the Scioto Athletic Department and entire Scioto Irish community, I wish to extend a sincere congratulations to the 2026 competition cheerleading team as they were crowned Division II state champions on Sunday, February 22nd. Thank you to Scioto head coach Hannah Kerr and assistant coach Angela Branham. This group of cheerleaders has displayed a great level of commitment and perseverance. In spite of injuries and illnesses during the competition season, the cheerleaders remained focused on their goal of winning a state championship. Their hard work and persistent effort throughout the year culminated with a flawless performance at the state championship competition at Big Walnut High School. In other words, they showed up when it mattered most. They were ultimately rewarded for those efforts by earning the distinction of the 2026 Division II state champions. I was fortunate enough to attend the state championship competition, was extremely impressed by the number of supportive family and friends that attended and helped to make the performance that much more special and memorable for the cheerleaders, many of which are here today. So congratulations to the 2026 state champions, and we look forward to displaying the new competition cheerleading state championship photo and the on the recognition wall at Scioto High School, and also updating the championship signage in the main gymnasium. Congratulations, ladies. Go Irish. At this time, I'll ask head coach Hannah Kerr to introduce the girls individually. Thank you.
All right. I'm like, he's taller than me, yeah. Up first, we have Hazel Ayala. You come up and shake hands. Shake hands, yeah. Come around this way, yeah.
Why don't you just have them step forward?
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Okay. Savannah Buss. Amari Chapman. Cheyenne Huffman. Arabella Lear. Zoe Lefferts. Olivia Lloyd. Nariah Martin. Christina McDonald, Isabella Orlandi, Emerson Robers, Sophia Scott, Maria Sina, Sydney Smith, Jaylee Tavares, Anaya Thomas, Aris Vargas, Scarlett Voltolini, Eleanor White, and Aurora Wilcox. Thank you.
Oh, they're cheerleaders. That's what they do. Awesome.
Okay, we're good. Thank you.
We'll get it out.
Yeah, I'll show you.
Okay. Mr. Melody is not here tonight, so the board can look at his report that he submitted on board docs, and we will move on to public participation. Lance Rapp.
That state championship is awesome, and I hope my boys sometime can be up here. It's part of the reason I'm here tonight. I'm here to talk tonight about concerns my neighborhood has about redistricting neighborhoods north of Glick Road from Jerome to Scioto, and to present a case against it. First, there's no logical reason to break up Griselle feeder patterns. Griselle is just over 1 mile from Jerome, nowhere near Scioto. An argument made last year against map 3 was that it would break up 3 elementary schools, or break up an elementary school into 3 high schools. Why would we do that to a middle school? Most importantly, there's safety issues. Why send kids 7 miles away across the river and down an unlit high-speed Riverside Drive with heavy quarry trucks and floodplains when they live only a few miles from Jerome? I know conversations had been had about busing kids down Dublin Road, but how many neighborhoods would they pass along the way? And we can't keep teenage drivers off Riverside. Then there's traffic. Mayor Matthews of Shawnee Hills told me the district came out last year to observe traffic with him, and I quote, "It was their position that they could not force additional traffic across the bridge, not only for morning and afternoon commutes, but also for team practices, events, etc." That was the same conclusion Dr. Marshausen told PTO presidents last year. If that conclusion has still been made, I don't know why it's being reconsidered. The mayor is offering a personal invite to any board member to observe traffic patterns with them. We have concerns about how the 2026 redistricting process has started. Our request of you is that you follow current board policy 5120, and in the interest of transparency, score any new map that is produced against map 1 and map 3 from last year. Developing and defending those maps cost several $100,000, and it was developed under Dr. Marshausen's leadership. I'll share my personal experience with those maps was one of disappointment for my children. Under map 1, my younger son would have been split and gone to Kaufman, while my older son would have stayed at Jerome. But I looked at that map, and I made peace with it because it made sense. Finally, I want to make one observation tonight. In watching and reading online materials, I've seen board members say that not all the schools have the same level of opportunity. If that's the case, it's not the fault of kids that don't go from one school to another. It would be the fault of the district. Tax dollars are available to all these schools. If more resources are needed at any school, then I say make these resources available and tell us how they're making lives better. That is how we improve outcomes. That is how we support future levies. Thank you.
Shakila Ali.
Good evening, members of the Dublin City School Board. My name is Shakila Ali. I am a mom. I'm a volunteer. Tonight, I'm also here as a member of the Board of Directors for Girl Scouts of Ohio's Heartland. And I appreciate the opportunity to connect with all of you. I'm here to respectfully request your support in maintaining free access to school meeting spaces for our Girl Scout troops within Dublin City schools. This partnership has long benefited not only the girls we serve, but also the district, its students, and the broader community. The long-standing partnership between Girl Scouts and Dublin City Schools has been mutually beneficial for decades, and troops' use of the meeting rooms requires minimal staff support. Their activities are fully supervised. They align with positive youth development standards, and they are scheduled in off-peak hours. Free access to space ensures that our program maintains equitable and accessible programming to all girls, regardless of economic background. And one of the considerations of imposing rental fees, especially at the levels currently under consideration, would inevitably force many of our troops to discontinue operations, to relocate outside the district, and reduce opportunities for our Dublin girls. Girl Scouts, if you're not aware, provides leadership opportunity, social emotional growth, STEM opportunities, outdoor exploration and education, community engagement for thousands of girls across Central Ohio, many of which are here in Dublin City School. They are our students and our girls. The convenience and the safety of school-based meeting spaces are key to their participation. When troops can meet, when girls can meet in the same schools that they attend every day, it eliminates transportation barriers, ensures a familiar and secure environment, and promotes a consistent engagement, and particularly along our young girls and families with limited resources. Girl Scouts' presence in schools also directly supports Dublin's goals of nurturing well-rounded, community-minded students. Troops routinely carry out service projects that benefit school buildings, teachers, students, from beautification efforts to food drives to teacher support initiatives. Troop leaders, many of which are parents that are here tonight, as you can see, further contribute to the district's culture of volunteerism and strong family environment. Allowing Girl Scouts to meet within school facilities strengthens our connection between homeschool and community. In closing, when you invest in a girl, we are investing in our community, our future leaders, and change makers of tomorrow. I am one of those girls. I benefited from school space and today, entrepreneur, board chair, and I am presenting tonight a room full of Girl Scouts that are our future leaders. So thank you for the consideration.
Tracy Borquin.
Good evening. I'm Tracy Burquin. I imagine many of you have met our City Council representatives. When they come to mind, my first thoughts are always respect and gratitude. I'm involved enough and have communicated with each of them enough to know that they're incredibly bright and caring. They give considerable thought to every initiative and plan for our city, and I hope you can agree, have done an incredible job of making the City of Dublin a premier location to live and work. I mention this because the city's just launched an initiative called Dublin Pedestrian and Bicycle School Safety Action Plan to improve how students walk and bike to school. One of their key points listed is their intention to coordinate with Dublin City schools. As you know, my neighborhood, Bristol Commons, along with many of the other Bailey communities like Buwoods of Dublin and Brandon, have all been pleading with you during redistricting to keep us at a school that allows our students to continue to bike and walk to school, especially in the summer for practices when it's simply impossible for parents to drive them during the workday. Nearly every family in these neighborhoods lives within about 2 miles or even much less from Kaufman High School. The entire bike route is on safe bike paths, and with the pedestrian tunnel under Brand Road allows for completely safe crossings all the way to the traffic light in front of Kaufman High School. I mention this because during this redistricting process, we have been pleading for the school board to recognize the importance of being able to bike and walk to school in practices. In the course of community discussions, we have been repeatedly mocked and jeered for even just saying this, as if it were an idea we were just making up to try to get our own way, which, as evidenced by this massive city initiative, clearly is not true. While I appreciate biking to school may not be important to everyone, you can see it clearly is important to many Dublin City residents. I believe this initiative shows strong support for what our families have been saying all along. Proximity matters. Biking matters. It's not just important to those who live across the street from a school, but it's important for all of us who currently rely on the ability for our kids to walk and bike where they need to go. Many of our families have 2 working parents or even single parents who cannot physically drive their children to school for activities. Knowing this, we chose to live somewhere that was close enough to school for our kids to independently get themselves there. The City of Dublin recognizes this and is trying to make it safer for families to do so. They are pouring significant resources into this initiative. Our pleas are legitimate. As the city coordinates with the school district to implement its safe walking biking plan, I really, truly hope you will now believe us and let us stay at a school where we can continue to safely walk and bike, and not send us to the farthest of the 3 schools where biking is unsafe and impossible for us to do. It's not an unreasonable request to let our children go to one of the 2 schools where they can easily and safely bike, as they do now. It is completely unreasonable to send them to the farthest one that takes away this ability and creates new hardships for them, making it impossible for them to get to activities. Thank you.
My apologies if I mispronounce this name. Sahithi Sadaneni.
Good evening. My name is Saidi Sadineni. I'm a Dublin City Schools Ambassador and a Girl Scout board member. I'm here today in support of maintaining free, accessible spaces for troops to meet because it has had a profound impact on me, my family, and the broader community. Girl Scouts has given me a community and a safe space that has supported my family. As evidence of the organization's mission, I recently earned the highest honor in Girl Scouting, the Girl Scout Gold Award, by dedicating 90 hours towards heart health in our community. That project taught me how to identify a problem, take initiative, and follow through with real impact. Beyond service, Girl Scouts has made me a more inquisitive, empathetic, and engaged student. When you support Girl Scouts, you're supporting the next future. Thank you.
Mark Flesch.
Thank you. My name is Mark Flesch, and I'm here to address the speculation that Tartan and North Muirfield are being considered for redistricting to Scioto High School. There is nothing about this scenario that is logical and is simply unsafe. Last year, the district spent hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars to hire a professional company which created 11 maps. Not a single one of them, not one, had Tartan and North Muirfield redistricted to Scioto. There is a reason for that. because it does not make sense. Why aren't we choosing to move forward with one of these 11 maps that we already paid so much money to create? Moving Tartan and North Muirfield to Scioto is unsafe. Shouldn't safety be priority number one for our children? Shouldn't that trump any socioeconomic equality that could be used to force our kids to commute to the high school that is the farthest away from them? The bridge on Glick will be a nightmare. And the left turn lane from Riverside onto Hard Road will be extremely backed up, increasing risk and putting our kids' lives in danger. And what about the floodplains on Riverside Drive? If we get a lot of rain, that will just add to the danger. Mark my words, there will be accidents. Kids will get hurt. Kids may die. Not only is this commute unsafe, it is not logistically sound. It is the farthest high school from all three of these kids' living locations. And in rush hour, it could take some buses an hour to make the trip. And what about practices and other school activities after school? They're not always right after the kids get out of school. So they will have to commute all the way back home and all the way back to the school to participate in these activities. They could spend up to 2 hours of their day just commuting back and forth. And again, it's unsafe and not fair to them. I encourage this board to keep our kids safe and use common sense when reevaluating redistricting. Making this decision based on socioeconomic equality is wrong. In my opinion, we need to go back to map 1. It makes the most sense from a proximity standpoint, and it's safe and fair to all kids. Don't continue to waste our taxpayer dollars on creating new plans that never made sense in the first place, and again, are unsafe. I really appreciate, hope you take this into consideration and appreciate your time. Thanks.
Board of Education committees.
I have a few. I will try to be quick. I'm going to start with the academic subcommittee, which met on March 3rd, and I will say that teaching and learning, they are able to pack a 1-hour meeting with so much information that I have a full page here, but I'm going to try to hit the highlights. And this is condensed from about 5 pages of notes. So, the team started the meeting off with spring 2026 teaching and learning board approvals that will be presented at the April Board of Education meeting, including resources for K-12 math and science. Math and science are currently in phase 2 of the curriculum review process, which involves a resource audit, which began in the summer for both math and science. Teachers are engaging with the resources that have made it this far. The high school ELA electives graded course of study will also be presented in April. High school ELA elective course numbers were declining, so the team created changes resulting in 3 new electives. Creative writing and writing for publication were combined to create a new course called Writer Studio. Speech and debate were combined into one course, and mythology was created based on student interest. The middle school electives graded course of study will also be presented. Theater is now a year-long class in 8th grade. 7th grade will have a new course called World Traveler, which will allow students to sample 5 languages that the district offers. Global studies will be 6th grade only. Modern literacy is shifting to becoming a digital citizen, and this course will include instruction on the responsible, safe, and ethical use of technology, including AI use and media literacy. Writing in the digital age will also have a focus on AI as well as executive functioning skills and how to be successful in school. And we also discussed the video and communications course. K-12 visual arts and physical education will see some changes based on tweaks to the vision statement and new standards, such as the addition of new swimming standards. And also kindergarten now also has PE and art, which they didn't have before because they were half day. The board will also see new curriculum blueprints for some academies. Mr. Pete Curdy and his team gave us an update on English learning in the district. Having one director and two directors working with teaching and learning has allowed for greater coordination and consistency across the district. They looked at ways to add more flexibility to student schedules so they can take other courses. They're looking at structures of support for EL students and collaborative support beyond EL teachers. There's also a committee to align MyView curriculum to Tier 1. MyView Literacy is the district's newly implemented ELA program. They're also working on an assessment to measure language acquisition and progress monitoring. The district will be purchasing a new online credit recovery program. They are currently using Apex, which they will be moving away from. Mrs. Lori Marple went over the ways in which teaching and learning contribute to responsible staffing. One example is looking at course numbers and creating offerings that help the district to be more efficient. They look at group sizes and work to maximize staff time, work with counselors to make sure students have options, but understand that they may not always get their first choice. She also discussed Journey 2030, which we went over earlier, and CCP trends. Lastly, she went over SB 19, which mandates that math improvement and monitoring plans, also known as MIMPs, may be created for certain students who are struggling in math. And that's it for teaching and learning, or the academic subcommittee. The Senior Citizen Council met this morning. The Dublin Scioto Chorale, led by Mr. Jace Nguyen, kicked off the meeting with a beautiful performance, including an Irish blessing called The Light of Grace. The Scioto Chorale earned an OMEA Superior rating this past weekend. Dr. Marshausen gave an overview of the redistricting process and shared frequently asked questions, which I'm sure he'll share at some point. Mr. Brian Kern gave a detailed overview of the district finances. And I always think it's interesting to listen to the questions that our members of the senior council ask. And interestingly, none of them had questions about redistricting initially, which I thought was interesting. One attendee had a budget question and asked about consolidating classes, so they were interested in how we were being efficient in our class offerings. Dr. Marshausen shared about the responsible staffing plan and how the district uses co-seating to be more efficient. He also discussed class sizes and how budget constraints might affect those. The PTO leadership group met on 3/6, which I did not attend, but they did receive the same information as our Senior Citizen Council. And I was unable to attend that because I was attending the OSWA annual conference, which Dr. Marshausen had mentioned before. But I do want to say the topic on that at the school social work conference was school social work in a modern world, AI, social media, and wellness. And I learned a lot about how our district and social workers can support our students in navigating the multitude of challenges and opportunities that come with modern technology. And as Dr. Marshausen mentioned during the last meeting, I was awarded the OSWA's 2026 Ohio Champion of Students Award. And I just want to say thank you to all of you when he asked me that, or asked me if I wanted to say anything at that time. I was like, not really, because I am a crier. And when they gave me this award, on the 6th, I warned them that I was a crier and that I was probably going to cry, and I did indeed cry, and they cried with me, and it was a happy time. But I want to just give a special thanks to every member of the Dublin City Schools leadership team, including Dr. Marshausen, Deputy Superintendent Dr. Jen Schwanke, Treasurer and CFO Brian Kern, Executive Director of Student Services Chris Andres, Director of Wellness Tyler Wolf, my fellow DCS Board of Education members, and everyone at this table, and everyone who comes together every day with innovative ways to make sure our students have what they need to be successful inside and outside of the classroom. Special thanks to our educators who teach our students with skill and dedication, and to everyone who impacts student learning directly and indirectly. And my heartfelt gratitude to the school social workers to make sure students are fully supported and ready to learn each day. Thank you to everyone who has an impact on our students. And lastly, thank you to the community for allowing me to serve our students in this way. Thanks. That's it.
All righty, I will give the update on key communicators. So March was a little bit harrowing at the beginning of the year. There was or beginning of the month, there was swatting calls went out statewide. And Jerome High School received one of those calls, and immediately the situation was taken care of with our Dublin Police Department, with our communications team. They had communications ready to go and prepared within 20 minutes of actually receiving the first call. Our corresponding schools around the city also received similar calls, which led police departments to feel like this was something that was manageable and not similarly just for one particular school. So big call out to our communications team, who worked very hard to get the information out to people and alert them appropriately. Dublin Police were at the high school and prepared to take care of our kids, but nothing occurred, so that was excellent. Also, during the key communicator meeting, we talked about redistricting and the different focus groups that are taking place, that have taken place, and that the Fallon Group will be working on a survey involving the community for more research. So we'll have a lot of data points in which to pull together in order to work on the redistricting information. And that is all.
Thank you. Chris, do you have any? No? Tara?
Yeah, I have a PTO leadership update. I don't think Tracy's here, but she had mentioned the pedestrian and bicycle school safety plan. We had somebody from the city come and walk through that with us, so a lot of good things there. Really what they're trying to do is improve how students and families walk and bike to the school. The focus will be just on the routes and crossings along those public streets around the schools and within the city of Dublin. So that's the corporation limits. If you have any feedback, they did let us know that you can go to, Tell Dublin, and take a survey to provide additional feedback. So I encourage you all to go and do that. I think it runs through the spring, if I'm not mistaken. Also, Jen Schwanke is not here. She actually told us about Journey 2030. We had done that earlier today in more detail, but walked us through some of those changes, so that was nice. And then Brian Kern also came to talk about some finances for everyone, very detailed, not as detailed as we were in our last meeting, but an abbreviated version. And I did find it interesting that they did have some questions on what they are supposed to provide versus what the district provides. So I think there's an opportunity there that we can maybe dive in and clarify for them what they as a PTO would provide. It looks different across the schools and what the district provides, but they're always happy to help. I think they were really excited to be there and learn about our financial information. But definitely, I think some opportunities that we can help clarify. And really quickly, I wasn't able to go to the DEF event, but that also occurred, and I believe, I don't know if, Chris, if you were there. Okay, three of the five of us did go, which was an amazing event. I don't know if you all want to speak to that, but heard some really great things. I also went to their quarterly board meeting, and I'll provide some more updates as far as numbers and things in our next board meeting next Monday. But again, I heard it was a really great event, a lot of firsts there. The one that I noticed was the balloon popping. I heard that was a success. I won to auction with that, but a lot of great things, a lot of grants for teachers, a lot of the stories about how they were able to provide money and support the classrooms. So if anyone wants to talk about that event, feel free, but otherwise we'll give an update next week on how much they've made.
Okay, I have a few updates. First is the district and city liaison meeting. The city council laid out some of their goals and some of the design guidelines for Metro Center and a cooperative agreement that might be coming this way regarding that. They are looking at the West Innovation District And what that could look like, will it possibly look like another bridge park that would be out by Costco, and it would complete the University Drive. And then some other project updates, the bike and pedestrian school safety, like we've talked about several times, mental health town hall, the Brand Road closure that is currently going on to fix under the bridge, area under the bridge, and then there's a water plant that could impact Wyandotte Elementary. And then they also talked about the new bike laws with 16 and under helmet requirements and not allowing motorized vehicles on motorized bikes on roads or paths. So that could be impacting some students. The groundbreaking for Cohatch will be happening in April, and that looks very exciting. And they talked about Jerome Township development, the Meyer, the Moo and the Kia that are coming there. And just to restate that Jerome Township is not part of Dublin, and so Dublin has no control or authority over what Jerome Township decides to build. As we know, we get questions and they get questions about that as well. And then what is big news for a lot of suburban areas with some land are data centers and where they're going to be placed. And currently we have land, and it looks like there could be some data centers that might go near that land, and what that means for us and what we want to do with the land that we own. When I say we, I mean Dublin City Schools, not me at all. It was great meeting with our city council reps and having that relationship with them to keep us all in the know. Mr. Kern was there, and he provided an update on our finances for them as well. So it's very much a give and take, and it's wonderful. Also, Communications Committee. We learned about how they have moved some of the alumni activities out of our communications department, and we are keeping the Hall of Fame, we are keeping Golden Grads, but the 50-year reunion, they are moving into the hands of those classes that will be doing that. Community of Champions Award will be on Wednesday, April 22nd. So right now we are in the process of ranking the nominations that are being submitted. The military commitment ceremony, and I'm so sorry, Cassie, I missed the date on that.
It's May 14th.
May 14th, thank you. America 250. We have a master plan, and we're going to kick off with My American Story campaign with student reps, which I'm super excited about as a social studies teacher, so I'm kind of nerding out on everything that they're doing. And then talked about digital accessibility and what teachers now have to do to make sure that they are providing everything for students with any type of special needs. Talked about Parent Square and rolling that out, and the administrative training that will happen in May. And just some language that we want to solidify how we discuss things with the district. Other than that, I do want to say that Mrs. De Silva and I had the opportunity to go this past weekend to the Consortium of State School Boards Association and go to that conference with Dr. Marshhausen and Mr. Kern and learn from some experts around the country on what other school boards do and how they operate, and it was a wonderful experience. Save for me getting into a fight with the sidewalk and losing. Do you have anything, student representative?
Good evening, Board of Education. In regards to all of the high schools, including Emerald, there will be a job fair at Dublin Scioto on March 20th at Dublin Scioto. Don't forget to RSVP to get a chance to visit employers for summer employment and internship opportunities, especially seniors. Take advantage of that. The start of the fourth quarter is upon us. At Kaufman, we see the teachers will be performing SpongeBob the Musical from the 20th to the 22nd, and senior Kings Island tickets and casino night, yes, that's going to be appropriate, that's going to be definitely school appropriate, has opened recently, and the Kaufman Dodgeball Tournament will be held on March 18th. At Jerome, we see that the third quarter obviously just ended, and the freshman mentor program, we're just making sure the freshmen are pushing through and creating new goals for the fourth quarter to end the year strong. Matilda the Musical is taking place on the 19th through the 20th at 7 p.m. The principal interviews occur on at Jerome this Wednesday. Mr. Arn is actually graduating with the 26th class, so it's really sad. The graduation committee had just met. We're slowly beginning to plan and make final adjustments for the 2026 class. The DJHS Leadership Committee met. We talked about how to effectively communicate professionally and how we can effectively implement the new cell phone policy that we're seeing within the hallways and having those difficult conversations. I know I'm guilty of using my cell phone in the hallway. At Scioto, we see on March 18th that the Jazz and Percussion Ensemble concert is taking place, and March 26th, Scioto Goes Global, which is a celebration of Scioto's many different cultures. Last week, Dublinthon raised almost $4,000 for Nationwide Children's Hospital, which is really impressive. And at Emerald Campus, we have Future You Week, which takes place April 6th through the 10th, and will be obviously hosted at Emerald Campus throughout the week. It's a time for students to focus on their professional careers in multiple ways, like receiving headshots and college readiness skills. We have the Community Open House, which is a celebration of learning on April 9th at Emerald Campus. We want to also congratulate Amberjot and Nethra for being chosen to represent Emerald Campus at this summer's Buckeye Girls State program. These students will learn the duties, privileges, rights, and responsibilities of good citizenship while participating in mock elections and community planning. And then we have the Emerald Food Fighters, which has been making strides in volunteering for the Mid-Ohio Food Collective, where they help sort and prepare donated food items for distribution. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Marshausen.
First of all, if any of you are interested in going to the job fair, not for employment, but because you want to see it, just let me know, and we can make sure that you be able to go. You do not have to RSVP to the same place that the kids do. So if anybody's interested on Friday going over there, just let me know, and I'll make sure that you're able to attend. As we went through the focus group work, and Cassie was a fly on the wall, there are a couple things involving redistricting that our team has been sharing with the different community groups we've been talking to. As several of you have mentioned, we use that opportunity as a way to engage those specific groups. There are 4 kind of FAQs that we just feel we have to continue to provide consistent information about. One of those is we're not considering, nor will we need, a 4th high school. And I joked at the last meeting that there are 250 million reasons why. And that's probably a conservative estimate that it would cost $250 million to build a 4th high school. We already put the addition on Dublin Scioto High School. Our enrollment projections, even on the high end, would have us at less than 7,000 students. We can easily accommodate those numbers when divided equally between the 3 schools. Also keeping in mind that many of our juniors and seniors aren't in the buildings all day. We welcome over 1,500 students here during the day. We have students at Columbus State, at Ohio State, at internships, at different jobs. So as the conversation continues community-wide, one of the things that we need to be clear about is a 4th high school isn't something that is under consideration, and the cost to that would be significant. We also get asked about the cost of the maps. We're in business that's 85% salary and benefits. We pay the people who are here. As we move students from one building to another building, we would move staff from one building to another building. A 4th high school would require a lot of extra staff that would be duplicated. In the case of putting an addition on a high school, it's moving the kids to that high school and making sure that we equally distribute our teachers. As Mr. Boney and our staff shared earlier today, our metrics for assigning teachers to buildings has gotten a lot more precise. And as we look going back to 11 different map options in the fall, or any potential map options that we would consider in the fall of 26, they're all basically revenue neutral. The differences would be minor in terms of the cost to operate. So we just need to keep that in mind. We also get asked if we can change our district boundaries. There are some people who ask, you know, can Jerome Village be their own school district? There are others who ask, can the Columbus City Schools take the kids who live in the city of Columbus? School district boundaries are basically fixed. There is a multi-year process and appeal to the State Board of Education for property transfers. Both districts have to agree. All of the landowners have to agree. It just doesn't happen, and it's impractical. And when we look at where our boundaries are the way they are, without going into too much of a history lesson. At some point, the Jerome Township Schools joined the Dublin schools, and at the time it was the Village of Dublin, in order to have enough capacity when it came to offering high school students more high school offerings. When those school districts merged, that's where the boundaries are. And yes, some of our lines aren't clear. Those lines that seem to jog around weird places around our district, that's just whoever's farm it was when that farm was part of Jerome Township. So as you look at some of the lines in the northern part of our district in Union County, where Kroger is in the Fairbanks district, but across the street's part of the Dublin City Schools, at some point, those were two different farms. So the boundaries are our boundaries. We say we love and educate all our kids. And from a standpoint of how are we working through all this, our boundaries are our boundaries, and we love and educate all our kids. And then we talk about the difference between walkable and non-transport when it comes to those zones. By state law, there are certain distances that you have to transport students. For high school, you have to transport, if you offer high school busing, outside of 2 miles. And if you offer high school busing, that has to be consistent for everyone. Now, you don't have to offer high school busing, but if you offer it, you have to offer it for those outside of 2 miles. At the elementary, outside of 1 mile, you have to offer busing. So our non-transport zones and our bus routes are determined by putting a pin where the school is in a radius around where that is. We're not talking 2 miles based on sidewalks, roads, travel, how you get there. It's just a radius around from the school. Do you live within, as the crow flies, in that zone? Now, we have a lot of people who use the term walkable. And that for some parents, walkable is different, and it's a parent decision. If you've ever dropped a kid off at a car line, you know there are a lot of people who don't consider it walkable because they're driving their kids to schools. And we get better as we build those buildings. When Mr. Stark and the team designed Bishop, we have a separate parent entrance, a separate bus entrance, a separate staff entrance, because we knew a lot of people are going to drive. If you try to drop your student off at some of our older schools, it gets a little bit more congested. More kids used to walk or ride the bus and be less on the buses. But so those two differences, walkable is what a mom and dad think is walkable. If you've got a kid at Carr, they all ride their bike when it's above 40 degrees. And it's awesome. There are like 800 bikes at Carr. It's the difference in the schools and the culture. So as we have these conversations, we just want to make sure we're using the same verbiage, vocabulary, but that we're also kind of debunking those things that, but you're going to need a 4th high school. No, we've got the enrollment projections. We're really not, based on the enrollment projections that we have. So those are just some things that came out of that focus group work. Now, Cassie, if you can move me to the next slide.
Before you go further, can you just mention that, because you said 2 miles, but we don't bus?
We don't. We bus within closer than that when we look at our elementary schools and our high schools. Mr. Stark, exact things that we're using?
By Ohio Revised Code, we have to, any K through 8 students living over 2 miles, we do it a mile. So we actually supersede it right now.
Yeah,
we don't have to
we're
go.
tighter.
We're tighter, yeah.
Yeah. And that's based
We're
on
half-
our policy.
It's half a mile K-8 and 1 mile 9-12.
Yeah, so we're half of what the state minimum is. And if we start failing levies and run into budget crisis, those are things that we can have conversations about. Okay. Next Monday here, we will hear from our partners at Planning Next and our partners at Fallon Research who have conducted the focus group work and the public polling that's taken place. I think everything's about wrapped up on both of those projects. And that will be the first time that as a board and as a community that we get that information from both Fallon Research and Planning Next. We have a call, I think, on Thursday to kind of talk about who goes first in the order and how they're going to do those things. So we will take care of that, and that will be in here. That is a special meeting. The only agenda items on that meeting will be hearing from those firms and any ensuing questions, conversations, information that the board members want at that hearing. Our intent will be then at the conclusion of that meeting by Tuesday morning to post any information that is shared by Planning Next and Fallon Research on the website in the redistricting section so everybody has equal access to that. So we do not have that information from Planning Next and Fallon now. When we have that on Monday, we will make sure that after the board hears it from our partners, we will post that for the public so the public can have that. Also, because it's a special meeting and we want to get right to those reports, there will not be public participation on Monday the 23rd. It will just be those partners. When we return in April with our next 2 scheduled board meetings, we'll return to our traditional public participation as we did tonight. And I would anticipate we would potentially be scheduling additional times for the board to meet once they have some time to study the things that they're given next Monday, form some questions, and begin to look at our next steps when it comes to the redistricting process. Mr. Valentine had asked at the last meeting, based on Mr. Kern's 5-year forecast, and Mr. Kern, feel free to jump in here, what are the options when it comes to budgets? And our team has come together with Mr. Kern under Dr. Schwanke's leadership to look at what would really be the 3 things that the board could consider in advance of the next levy in terms of how we operate as a district. And I'm going to phrase option 1 is how we used to do business. If I went to Mrs. Althouse and Mr. Andrus and Mrs. Marple and said, what would you like in terms of staffing as we prepare for the 26-27 school year? What could you use in terms of staffing? We believe the way we used to do business, we'd be looking at 23.5 additional teachers for the next school year. And here's a breakdown of where those teachers would be. We look at some of these numbers knowing that the state law is going to require us to do MIMPs, which are math intervention plans, because right now we have RIMPs for reading. MIMPs are coming. Sorry, I'm going to get stuck over those for a while. So if we were going to do what we would like to do, we would add 23.5 teachers, and Mr. Kern, that would be about an addition of about $2 million or more for to the budget. Option 2 is to continue what we've done under the responsible staffing plan. And option 2 is we're going to try to move people around. We're going to move kids around. And without adding staff, we're going to do the best we can with what we have. When we passed that levy in November of 2023, we had 1,430 teachers. And since that time, we've opened buildings, added all-day kindergarten, added 1,000 students, and I think we're like at 1,440 now. So we've basically been able to stay steady with our staff as we've grown. Responsible staffing plan, still staying within the legal requirements when it comes to our ratios and what we're doing. Growing population up at depth, knowing that we're going to be back into those modulars next year, adding 2.5 teachers if we continue operating with a scarcity mentality as we move forward. The third option would be if we wanted to avoid deficit spending in the next couple years, we'd be looking at reducing 100 staff members. Those 100 staff members would include 9 administrators, 32 student services, and 59 teachers. We would no longer be looking at 24, 26, and 28 as our elementary class sizes. We would likely no longer be looking at programs at the high school, options that we currently have at the high school. We could also get with our Teachers Association and look at a freeze in steps and the cost of living allowance. We could look at eliminating high school busing. So as we look at the 3 options, my recommendation, and Mr. Kern and I have this back and forth all the time from the money guy standpoint and the educator standpoint, is I don't like the idea of cutting and reducing options and services until the community has an opportunity to say that's what we want to do. I think until the time comes that we go to our voters and we say, all right, right now we have $100 million in the bank, but we're going to deficit spend $10 million next year and $34 million the next year and $64 million the next year. So we know doing what we're doing over the long term is not sustainable. But what I think our best option is look at that 5-year forecast. As we look at the lines crossing and we're spending more money than we're bringing in and we're starting to eat into our fund balance, be intentional in the communications with our community, start talking about as a leadership team, when is it prudent to go back to the voters to say, this is where we are. If the voters say, no, we've had enough, we're not passing another levy, then we have to start looking at cuts. Then we have to start looking at drastic changes in the product that we provide to this community. But I think we have to give them that option first before we go to that level. I also don't want to go back to how we used to operate. So my recommendation is continue the responsible staffing plan, only add what we have to add in order to meet our standards and our minimums, stick as close to we can as that unwritten promise of 24, 26, and 28 in our elementary schools, and prepare for what will be a ask of our community in either 27 or 28. Did I miss anything, Mr. Kern?
All right, not putting the cart before the horse, depending on timing that we would be going back that you just mentioned, and reflecting on option number 3. In the case of a failed levy, option number, I won't even say option number 4, but we'll stick on option number 3. We would be in a position that we would hypothetically, from a dollar amount, need to be cutting more than what we have here. Exactly. And if that were the case financially, I I took some notes here. What's the rough dollar amount again on what this would be, and what's the rough dollar amount on what we'd hypothetically have to do if you're in a position to say that? I know that puts you in a spot real quick.
Current information from here. So right now, with just option 3, as you're looking at it from 100 staff members, essentially we're looking about a little over $8.5 million by 8. We figure about, with salaries and benefits, you're looking at about $86,000 potentially with per each staff member. With that being said. As you can see from option 3, the 1-year freeze, step, and COLA is from 28. We have a negotiated agreement that goes through 27. That would have to be a change with that. 28 is a negotiation period, so that would still be a negotiated type item from that standpoint. Depending on when we would go, or for example, you're just essentially almost doubling it at each time each year you're waiting. So if you're looking at 2028, we're deficit spending at that point at $26.6 million. And so you're increasing, actually you're probably going a little more, almost 3 times as much. At that point, you're looking at maybe potentially 300. Or it's a combination thereof, right? For example, you could, is it the COLA, is it the freeze, is it staff members themselves, is it plan design changes on health insurance and so forth. For example, we made a change that went into effect, I just calculated, I was doing the calculations for it, but we were looking at a 25% increase, and we went to medical trend, which has been around 8% in Central Ohio, or actually about around 22, 23%. That was $6 million of cost avoidance right there in premiums we would add this. So there's a bunch of stuff we could do and put together, but if you're looking at just pure staff with just number of people and did it just that way, if you're looking at, for example, fiscal year 28, you're looking at, you're almost tripling the amount of people that you'd have to use. If you recall, back in 2023, we were looking at potentially over a 2-year period of $40 million in cuts. At that time, it was 200 staff members, and a combination thereof of similar things. If you remember back, we had a board approve the cut list at that point.
I know this might be way too early, but I do want to kind of explain what a freeze actually means, because I think it sounds like it's a 1-year thing. It is not. Any teacher that gets put on a freeze is forever 1 year below where they should be getting paid on the step ladder. So it continues to save the district money year after year, but it does impact teachers. And one of the things that we have to also realize when we look at things like this is that it's our teachers that make this district so great. It's our teachers that are at the front line that are doing all of these things. It's our teachers that are doing the achievement. So if we're going to cut things, and we're going to cut things at the teacher level, we have to be sure that it is done right, and it is done in cooperation with the DEA.
That would also include, that $7.4 million also include all staff. That would be all staff. You have your DSA bargaining unit as well for your support folks, and also be with administrators. It would be everyone from that standpoint. So, and that's just wages. So if you add benefits into it, you're looking over $8 million.
We've talked, and I think as a board, there's an appetite to explore both earned income tax and property tax. I think that as a conversation, it's something that has to continue in the spring and the fall. And Mr. Valentine, it may be something that Mr. Kern mentioned 28. It may be prudent to explore fall of 27 to see where our community is, especially if we're looking at a type of tax that we haven't used before, And as Mr. Kern has said in almost every group we've talked to recently, it just takes longer to get your money if you went with an income tax, because it takes it's about a year lag before that hits your books. So I do think if we're going to say option 2, I don't think anyone's advocating for option 1. If we were going to say option 2, I do think it does merit a conversation to not wait till we're at that point before we have to have those conversations, because there are also timing questions. The horse is almost out of the barn right now for 26, 27. Like, we're scheduling. So really the conversations we're starting to have would be for 27, 28, which then that puts you at the end of that into the next fiscal year. So we're almost there in terms of all of these conversations have to stack in terms of, okay, we're going to do this, and now we're going to agree to start having these levy conversations, and what type of levy conversations as we look at fiscal options moving forward. You agree, Mr. Kern?
Correct.
Just a question. Really quickly, for option 3, how much time does that then buy us? The amount here would get us through 27? Is that what we were saying, as far as this option 3?
So right now, that would get us through our deficit spending that we have for fiscal year 27. So that would put us at essentially neutral. We would maintain our balance of, we're projected to end this fiscal year at $104 million. That would project to save that. What it does is helps be proactive, as we're going to have to come back at some time and need more revenue. That's just a reality. What that could do is potentially push it back. We haven't run all the scenarios yet, for that, but we can do that. We can do that in front of you guys at one point if that's what you want us to do, and sit down at that standpoint, and we can run the different scenarios. It could push back potentially. It could also ask for, when we do come back, for a lower amount at that point. But what it does at option 3 right now gets us out of deficit spending for which would be next fiscal year.
I think so. Just from my standpoint, I think obviously option 2 is the best option. But I think we are running into that deficit spending. So I don't know if option 3 gets us all the way to the end if there's something maybe in between that's not going all the way, but then we're also then coming to the voters still to make that decision, but we say, here's what we've done, so far. So we have taken this into account. We've done some things. Now we're coming to the ballot, and in the interim, we're putting this information in front of the community, I would say, almost monthly, because it feels like even if it's a year out, that feels like a now to me. So is there a way that we do option 2, but then we're still thinking of some ways to maybe start this without going all the way to this option 3? This seems like a lot to me if I'm looking at the teachers and the classroom, all of those things, student services. But is there a way to say, okay, we've recognized this and we're doing some things along the way until we come to levy time, and then present our case that way, just as an option?
I think that's what option 2 is. It really is just keeping it, because what we have to also understand is that as we have more IEPs, more 504s, more ELs, as we need to put teachers in those areas to meet state minimums, we are pooling classroom teachers. So that means that the class sizes are going to have to increase to offset that balance. So I think I get what you're saying, but I think what it would come down to is that option 3 is where we're at if we don't pass the income tax or the levy. We will have to do that. But I don't think we should start cutting positions, because that's going to cut programs. And I agree with Dr. Marshausen, until the community has a chance to actually vote on that, because that's what it would do. Anytime, if we don't do option 2, we would have to cut programming.
Well, in option 3, I think you said other cost-saving options. Like, and so those are kind of listed there. So is there a way where you're not necessarily taking the teachers out, but?
Well, we can't do anything with the teachers until after 2027. So that takes that out because they have a contract. So the only other thing would be to eliminate high school busing. And I'm not sure how much that would save. Brian?
I don't know. We had to examine the routes and different other things.
Just a point of clarification, because Amy said something, and I want to make sure from a public standpoint this doesn't get crossed. If we went in 27, regardless of what form, income, otherwise, it does not pass. We aren't looking at option number 3 at that point. We're looking at
You're looking at a bigger
we're looking
option
at the
that.
triple, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that's out there.
Yeah. And Ms. Seward, real quick, I mentioned we do things in the interim, and maybe that's part of my Journey 2030 goals is to communicate those better. Is we're looking at efficiencies all the time, but with 85% of our stuff wrapped up in people, with being salaries and benefits, to get, besides the low-hanging fruit, yes, we can squeeze whatever we can. I talked about part of that 85% in plan design changes, and that's the second big plan design changes we made. We had a point back in, I believe, when I first came back here, it was around 2016, where we had made one huge we actually had decreases of around, over a 5-year period, of premiums of 25%. But with medical trend in this area, if you read all around here, Central Ohio cost of care compared to other places in the state costs 20% more. And then I'm not even going to talk about different hospital systems and their costs compared to even others in the local area. But from that standpoint, and so we do those type of things. And we try, and when we budget, if we're coming into budget season right now, we'll look at doing whatever we can, reduce wherever we can. But for example, we've worked with IGS Energy on different hedging strategies for our gas and electric stuff. But there's certain things. New math programs coming out that we have to do, and resources that we have to do go along with it. You're kind of tied to some things, and then what was something I forget somebody mentioned tonight. I was thinking off the top of my head. It's a wonderful thing, but it's an unfunded mandate from the state that we have to cover different things that happen throughout. So, and then what I've been telling every group is, God forbid, and it's not just us as a school district, but you're looking at Washington Township, so your fire and EMS, your counties and the county services, whether it's children's services or mental health or whatever it may be. God forbid gets on the ballot a property tax repeal, and that happens this fall in an election, and that occurs. What do you do? If someone asked me in one of the groups, what's your contingency plan? Well, I used a term today, an accounting term today for accountants out there. It's called going concern. Do we exist at that point? You have a going concern with the financial statements. And so you would, I don't know, it'd just be crazy. I think when they did an analysis from a Legislative Service Commission approach to the governor and the legislature, I believe, and I'm not saying this is quite, quote me on this amount, but you're looking at high teens sales tax and different other maybe potential income tax measures just to replace what local property taxes give to our local entities. Yes, school districts have the predominant amount of that, but it's all entities around this area that would be affected that get property taxes.
Just going back on option 1 versus option 3 real quick, so that we're talking apples to apples as much as we can. On option 1, we have listed related services, intervention specialists, classroom teachers, English learner teachers, math intervention. Option 3, it's summarized more, and obviously because of space, administrators, student services, classroom teachers, specifically around student services and administrators. I'm imagining, looking at this, that the student services encompasses some of the positions that were noted on option 1, but why do we have such a strong number in one direction? I like the intro music. Strong number in one direction and not on option 1.
Chris, you want to talk?
Eliminating the social workers.
Okay.
Okay.
So you
Go-
get, there's
go ahead.
25 right there that we just invested in to put in those spaces. And one of the things that we didn't want to do is get too specific in the positions so we don't freak people out.
Yeah.
But I think it would be understood when you look at a student services, if you look at eliminating 100, you start looking at non-required positions. You still start looking at things like how many counselors do you need per 100 students to be able to operate your buildings. So that's why there's a little less specificity in that list. And I'm going to jump to one of your earlier questions, Mr. Valentine. You know, Mr. Kern said we'll have 104 million cash carryover at the end of this year. If we deficit spend in fiscal year 27, it takes it down to 90. So when we talk about 300 positions, it would be 300 to not be deficit spending. We're still sitting on 90. Now, you don't want that run rate to continue to do that, because when we get to a certain level, now we're under fiscal watch. Now we have the state coming in and we have to have an action plan in place that would start to reduce that run rate. We do have a little bit, you know, now you're getting to, in my mind, you fail the first levy, you cut 100, you're still deficit spending. You fail the second levy, now you got 200. So I do think there are steps here before you get to where you're not deficit spending. And as we look at that run rate that looks like a sine wave on a graph, we run it up, we run it down, we pass a levy, we run it back up again. It's typically how districts like us have to operate.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen the graph. I show it every time I do the 5-year forecast. You have that line of revenue that remains flat, and you have the consistent that's going forward, especially with a growing district like ourselves and the inflationary factors that we have.
So are you essentially, I mean, we're kind of volleying this around. Dr. Marshausen, are you saying that if a failure occurs in fall of 27, you would look more towards option 3 or some version of option 3 before you would go to the 300 number that we were talking about here? If we came back theoretically in the spring?
If the two of us were going back and forth, which we do.
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at them. I mean, I would recommend on the higher end of things to stay. I mean, mind you, we do have a positive cash balance through fiscal year 29, but that's that run rate that keeps expanding from that. I would want to, I would say, go for a little meatier with that standpoint, because maybe the ask isn't as big next time, or not. You're just maybe, now you're maybe going into double digits in the ask. If, let's just say it's a property tax, and then if it's an income tax, you know, might be paying as much as, I don't say, I don't estimate exactly what that is, but you're looking at a big number. It's a huge number there from that standpoint. So it's, I think to be proactive on the front end of things, you would do it more. That way, you've cut that. I mean, if you have multiple failures, now you've started to address it at that point.
And just from a logistical standpoint, you fail in the fall. Hypothetically, you go to the primary of 28, which would be, unless you kick it all the way down the road, you'd want to go in the primary.
Primary, but which now you're moving yourself
You're
back
still
to
not
May.
collecting till January.
You're not
Still not,
collecting
exactly. You're
until
still not
29.
collecting, and even, but where I was going to go from a logistical standpoint, from a staff standpoint, for all those people who are being cut, they're essentially going to be free agents or out searching during that springtime period.
Yeah,
where,
and especially with it being the primary, you've now pushed it back from March
No,
to
it's a presidential.
It's a presidential primary.
It'll
Now
be
you're
March.
in May, so
The fall of 28 will be March, because it's a presidential in the fall of 28.
yeah. That's not May.
No, the presidentials are still March.
Still March. Okay.
So like this year, the primary's in May.
Okay.
27 will be May.
I'm sorry. You're right. I
Yeah.
got them flipped there. My bad.
Yeah.
So Brian, you're thinking option 2 as well?
Yes, I would think we're at a point now with the way we've, with class scheduling and where everything in the services we need to provide, we would stick with option 2 at this point. Going forward, yeah, would it be nice to do some of that other stuff? I think, but is for the practicality and the services that we're providing and where we're at this point, I would say you continue with option 2. And I'm going to tell you from the standpoint, you know, Dr. Marshausen is your CEO. You want him to direct where the services and stuff that you want to provide, and I'd go along with that recommendation.
And I'm going to throw a but then because he's your CFO. I think that as we enter the fall in 26 and even the summer of 26, and there's going to be a lull in the redistricting process during the summer months, I think that we need to seriously consider what is the communication strategy and long-term plan for the next levy ask. I think we need to look long and hard in what that is. And I think we need to look long and hard at, is that potentially a swing in the fall of 27, knowing it will be less. Also, it gives you time then to put together the reduction list, because I think that Dr. Schwanke and Mrs. Marple could tell you what 100 positions will look like, but it's not pretty. When you start looking at what happens in this place, what happens with IB, what happens with high school programming, it changes the service that people expect in the Dublin City Schools. When you start getting into 8% of your teaching staff, when you start looking at numbers like that, 7.5% of your teaching staff, that's 7.5% of the services that you're providing, which changes why people moved here. And I think that is a year-long communication strategy that and it's not a campaign. We're not, we're not allowed to campaign, but we are allowed to speak to what's the reality. And I think that's something that a full 12-month runway is necessary to be able to do effectively.
And it allows us to model different things so we can show you, I always see myself as the information provider. We can give you the board, I can give our cabinet and Dr. Marshausen as go along and see what does this look like from a financial perspective. And what does it look like going forward? And we can run those models to whatever you want to see and look at from that standpoint.
And I said to the senior citizens today that the stress for me isn't redistricting. Our kids are going to be fine when they go to their high schools. And 5 years from now, once we've got redistricting done, the Dublin City Schools looks like the Dublin City Schools. That option 3 changes everything, and it changes what makes the Dublin City Schools. So I think as we look at, and I don't know how I keep talking about the big rocks. There are 2 big rocks, and they're boulders, and these are the things that we have to lead and work through right now to be able to effectively communicate with our community and lead through these 2 major issues. And they both kind of dwarf some of the other things that come up.
And not to be all doom and gloom.
Yeah?
Which is,
do you got more to that?
I'm just going to say the things that we have done. I talk about the plan design. I'm talking about responsible staffing plan. The positives of those and doing that, being efficiency and where we're placing. We could be looking worse. We could be looking sooner at this point. So
we'd have been on now. If we hadn't done responsible staffing plan, we'd be on in the fall of 26. And it would be 9 mills in the fall of 26. So the things that we've done, and Mrs. Seward, we need to do a better job talking about them.
Yeah.
You know, when you talk about, you know, you need to have a story. If I were to share the narrative for someone to drive up who hasn't been up to see Depp and Eversole and to see the houses that have been constructed up in that area, the new builds in the last 5 years, and to say, you don't have any more teachers than you did 5 years ago? Nope, same amount of teachers. Added all-day kindergarten, same amount of teachers. And we're starting to hear that from our teachers. For those of you who come to SAC, we're starting to hear, I got 32 in all of my English classes at a high school. And that's a lot of papers. That's a lot of grading. And we continue to ask more and more of our teachers, and they continue to step up and meet that challenge. But yeah, I think we have to be able to communicate, as Mr. Kern said, the things that we have done to squeeze as much juice out of this as we can.
Yeah, I think that's key in the communication to the community, right? To understand what that full picture looks like, what we've been doing for how long, and how that translates to money. Because if they're able to see that, you know, month over month, whatever we decide when we want to, you know, start bringing them into the fold, then they can truly start seeing what that impact is going to have once we get there.
I'm going to jump in. What I wish we had named these were not option 1, 2, and 3, but what we wanted to do, what we are doing, and what we would have to do. That's so rather than options, which I think is confusing, Tara, we should have said that so that we can communicate to our public. We have been trimming, and we talk about it all the time, but our community doesn't know that.
So, Mrs. McLean, when you asked about an action item and if you ask for something, Mr. Valentine asked for something, so we brought it. If there are other things the 5 of you want to see and have these types of conversations, just let us know, because this amazing team can pull this all together. And Brian and I talk a lot, but it's thanks to all of these great people who help make that possible.
With that being said, I do have an ask for Mr. Boney and Mr. Andres. If you could please, since we started the responsible staffing plan, how many more students that that we then are bound by state requirements for limitations have we added, and what that has meant for staffing as well? Just so we can see how that is impacting our teachers, support services, everything. Thank you. Mr. Kern.
Yes, so let's try to keep it cheery here, huh? We do have some donations on the agenda for this evening. Some nice donations from our PTOs and our boosters and so forth. We always appreciate what they do. We do have one transfer. Usually you would have saw this more closer to the beginning of the year, but as Jerome class of 2025 close out their expenses and what they do, they're transferring to the upcoming class of 26. Student activity purpose clause improvements. Now, mind you, I just want to remind, especially for our newer board members here, student activity purpose clauses, there is an approval process that typically starts in the building, goes up through the chain, and the reason why it's on my agenda is there's usually a purpose clause for what they raise money and what they can be spent on is kind of why it goes through my area for his approval. You have a statutory requirement this evening of a resolution accepting the tax rates and certifying to the county auditor. We have approval of the meta agreement, and it's not the meta that you guys may be known and used to. This is the Metropolitan Educational Technology Association, or Meta Solutions is their full name. I should have put solutions with that. This is their agreement, annual agreement. They are, among other things, but mainly are our fiscal software runs through them, and the support that they do, there's a statewide organization that helps run it. We run what's called state software redesign. There's only 2 options for school districts in the state, and predominant majority are on state software redesign, which is us. And so this outlines what they do to support that software and have the ability to use that software, our financial software, and also has, I see Mr. Gill over here, they help in the EMIS side of things as well and support with that. Also on this evening's agenda, we have the financial report through February 28th. This is this is updated through the 5-year forecast projections that we did on February 23rd, and so this is comparing to those at those point. And so this is where we're at. We're in line. I did ask our, as the big thing I mentioned, our revenue, of course, is we're predominantly property tax based. Franklin County is our predominant county. They delayed tax collections till the end of beginning of March there, about a month and a half later. I did inquire with them as when they would have final settlement. We do get what they call advances that are available to us. They have not said that exactly. I did read an article, unfortunately, last week in the Dispatch where the Franklin County Treasurer's Office was a little behind in processing payments. So I hope that doesn't mean that there's a delay in our final settlement from that standpoint, but more to come on that from that standpoint. There's 2 sides of things, that equations. You have the auditor who assesses it, and then you have the Franklin County Treasurer who collects it. That's all I have on for this evening. Is there any other questions on the agenda items this evening?
If there are no questions, it is recommended by the Treasurer that the Board of Education approve items 8B through 8G. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Valentine. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. De Silva. Please call the roll.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Mrs. De Silva?
Yes.
Mrs. McLean?
Yes.
Ms. Seward?
Yes.
And Mrs. Messick?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Department of Academics and Student Learning.
Okay, I have 3 things for you tonight. The first one I'm going to take just a few moments to explain. Dublin City Schools does not have an inter-district enrollment policy. That's open enrollment from students outside of our district coming here. We are full, so we do not accept that. So that is often confused with intra-district enrollment. Intra-district is when parents request to move their child from one school to another school. The problem in a growing district, and in a district where so many of our schools are at or above capacity, is we can't allow a student to intra-district transfer when that might mean bumping a student, like a summer move-in, for example, who lives across the street from a school and there's no room because we let students from other schools come. Every year in March, the first meeting in March, I come to you with this resolution as per board policy, and what it does is it shows you exactly what the enrollment capacity is per square footage, rounded up to the nearest 25, and then we lop off 20% of that. Again, that is for movement. That is for students who move in. We want to make sure that there's enough room there. And so we only open for intra-district enrollment any schools that still have space after that calculation. So you'll see on this document that the schools that will allow intra-district enrollment are Deer Run Elementary, Hopewell Elementary, and Wyandotte Elementary and Scioto High School for next year. Now, this process, again, outlined clearly in board policy. If a parent wishes for their student to inter-district transfer, they fill out an application that's posted on the website the first week in April, after your approval tonight. Parents have until the first business day in May to complete that application, and then we approve it or deny it by the first week in June. Approval and denial is simply based on this table you have in front of you. This is a big change from maybe 10 years ago in the district where we had several hundred students all over the place. Now we have, just a small handful. So it takes all the guesswork out of it, shows what schools have room and which schools don't. So that's up for your approval this evening. The other two items, the first is an approval of payment to Janice Miner, who is a speech language pathologist, and approval of payment to Andrew Gano, school psychologist. So the reason behind this is when we are so tight in our staffing, which again we're very proud of, what that means is if we have a staff member in student services, in this case speech language therapist and a school psychologist, if one of our existing staff members is unable to finish the year because of leave or any number of reasons, those students still need those services. And so we have to contract outside of our district for private practitioners. So that's what you're looking at tonight, to ensure that our students get their complete comprehensive student evaluations done and services. Any questions on any of those three items? Okay, thank you.
If there are no questions, it is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves items 10A through 10C. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. De Silva. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Valentine. Please call the roll.
Mrs. De Silva?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Mrs. McLean?
Yes.
Ms. Seward?
Yes.
And Mrs. Messick?
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. Mr. Stark.
I have a number of things for the board to hear out tonight, so I'm going to go as quickly as I can, but just stop me at any time if you have any questions. The first item is a resolution amending a current agreement we have with Mays Consulting. Mays Consulting has done a phenomenal job with us. They're an independent consulting firm that basically works just on building roofs and building envelopes. And they have been redesigning our roofs for the last 3 to 4 years. And when we get a new roof, they are not just replacing them, they literally redesign them so they last longer. And these are multi-million-dollar roofs. It's really a construction project, how the way they do it. So what we're looking for this summer, we're doing roofs at Kaufman, Griselle, Thomas, Wright, and Wyandotte. Because our summers are only 10 weeks long, we can only get so much done. We need to finish these jobs next year, and we're asking the board tonight to adjust their contract to allow them to finish with the design, putting all the bid documents together, because all this gets publicly bid, and those bid documents are a lot of pages of specs and pieces how to build it. And then lastly, construction administration, and that's them being on site with the vendors, making sure that they're putting things to design. So that's the first thing on there, and that's changes their fee for about $282,000. The next item up, we came to the board last year to amend Kramer Engineering because we're replacing quite a few elevators from our 23 bond. The Scottish Corners elevator probably should have been on there. The Scottish Corners elevator is at end of life. It's constantly breaking down, and it's getting more and more difficult to get parts. So the board last year approved an amendment with Kramer. They redesigned the roof. Redesigned the elevator, and we put that out for public bid, and the bid came in about a week ago, and we're recommending Mosley Elevator as the lowest responsible bidder for $196,000 to completely replace that elevator at Scottish Corners. And if that was approved by the board, that would begin June 1st this year. Also, we did chair lifts. So chair lifts are, it's not considered a public bid because it's not a permanent improvement to a building. It's more like furniture. It's just what you see when you have like 2 or 3 steps to go up to a stage. Someone goes down there. We have some chair lifts that are out of life. They're still working, but they're on their last leg at Kaufman and Scioto High School. So while it didn't require a public bid, it does require a request for proposal. So we sent it out to 3 different firms, and we're recommending Midwest Accessibility Projects for a contract worth $159,514 to replace these chair lifts. Also on the board's docket is an updated agreement with K-Force. K-Force has been with the district now for 6 years, and this is our 3rd updating of a contract. As their services change, as their offerings change, and as the law changes, we'd like to redo their contract and bring it back to the board. These contracts automatically renew, And while we appreciate the board giving us that latitude, we still come back to the board between every 3 to 5 years with an updated agreement so the board can have a new look at it. The reason for this new one is we haven't updated this since the pandemic, so there's a lot of pandemic language that need to be in there. And also, K-Force is offering a few different ways of staffing that we're interested in. This is what this contract covers. And again, what K-Force does for us is 2 things. They give us temporary staffing for our IT group, and they also provide recruiting. Part of their business model is if we hire a temporary staff person and we like them, we can hire them. And we've hired probably close to 10 people over the last 3 or 4 years. They do a much better job than we do because this is their business in recruiting IT labor and people who want to work at schools, and it's been a really good relationship. So what this contract does, it's really terms and conditions, and we have to write a purchase order as we use it. The next item up is Airmark, who is our food service provider. The way these agreements work with food service provider, and this is by law, these are 1-year contracts with 4 one-year renewals. We are recommending the second renewal, or this will be going to their second renewal to the board to renew them. There's a subsidy in there, and that subsidy covers the extra fees it takes to put the programs we want to put together. Airmark has lowered their subsidies. They've done a really good job. They're lower than our last provider, and they're improving this whole time. And we've had, knock on wood, or Apple Computer, a really good experience so far with Airmark over the last couple of years, so we're recommending a renewal there. Another renewal we're putting in front of the board is with Spear Mechanical. Spear Mechanical handles all of our maintenance, our preventative maintenance on all of our HVAC across 23 buildings. We did an RFP on this about 3 years ago, and it was very, very difficult just to find 3 suppliers who can handle 23 buildings and the hundreds of motors and dozens of chillers we have and boilers and be everywhere at the same time, and Spear has done a really good job with that. So this is a contract for preventative maintenance. This is where they start up our boilers and start up our chillers during the summertime, and this is a renewal for $183,000. The next item, and I put this in one of my reports to you because it's a quit claim deed. What a quit claim deed is basically, it's a legal term for a deed that you hand somebody over land, but you basically says it's as is. I don't know how they came up with the word quit claim on that, but that's what it means. So I'm giving you something. If you don't like it, we're shaking hands. This is the way it is. This is a collaborative effort between us and the City of Columbus. Over on West Case Road, where Wright Elementary is, there is open land there, and the city is going to create this huge park, and they're going to have pickleball courts. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be fantastic. But part of that is they have to increase the size of West Case Road. They have to, the width of it. And because of that, we get a benefit from it because our driveway going into Wright has to be widened. And if you've gone to Wright, it's not a wide entrance. You can't really see. There's bushes in the way. You can't see our sign. So what the city will do is we give them this land, and the land we're giving them is 0.06 acres. It's like giving the size of one of our tennis courts over to them. And they will, this summer, they will redo that whole opening for us and have it done by end of July. They'll also leave us egress the whole time because the Wright this summer is going to be getting a new air conditioner and a new roof, so we need ways to get in. They've been very, very cooperative with us, and they allow us to put all these. They have to tell us when they're going to do it. They've met our dates when they need to get out. So that's what this item is for. And lastly is more payment in lieu. We had payment in lieu last time. If you remember, we talked about that. I also put that in my reports. You could always reference that and how that all works. And this is just a few more families that came in and that were looking for board approval. I know I went through that fast, but I just want to, if you have any questions at all, please let me know.
Before I get to the vote, I just want to thank you and all of the people that work for you over this weekend when we had so many power outages and rearranging things at the high schools and elementary schools and making sure that our buildings were safe once again for school on Monday.
I will definitely
it
pass
seems
that
like
along.
I've had to thank you for this
Well, no, it was a long weekend, and it was very appreciated, and our whole team was in, and they were just fantastic. Not one complaint. Everyone just kept at it from Friday all the way till last night.
Greatly appreciate that. It is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approve items 12A through 12H. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Seward. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. De Silva. Please call the roll.
Ms. Seward?
Yes.
Mrs. De Silva?
Yes.
Mrs. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
And Mrs. Messick?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Human Services.
All right, so tonight on our certified agenda, I'll start. We have 3 administrative retirements, a couple of resignations, and a promotion for you to approve. So Mike Leopold in Mr. Andres' department is retiring with 12 years in our district. Tyler Wolf is retiring with 20 years in Dublin, also in Mr. Andres' department. However, both of them will be recommended as rehires in a future board meeting. Shayna Murray will retire with 20 years in Dublin City Schools. We're recommending Nick Bertrams to transition from his role as an assistant principal at Old Sawmill to be a principal in that building. The board meeting in March is when we bring administrative contracts to you for approval. You'll see 3 cabinet-level contracts on the main page of this agenda. And then there's an attachment that lists those administrators who are up for renewal by length of contract eligibility. We have 3 certified resignations and then 3 retirements. Joe Blind will retire from Eversole Run with 9 years in Dublin. Lisa Davis is retiring with 20 years from Depp Elementary. And then our very own Don O'Connor is retiring as DEA president with 26 years in Dublin. Spoiler alert, both Lisa and Don will be brought back to the board to be rehired for the 26-27 school year at a future board meeting. You'll see 2 new hires on tonight. And then this is also the same meeting each year where teachers who receive a 1-year replacement contract are non-renewed for next school year. We will hire most of these staff back next month when we bring all limited contracts that are up for renewal for you to review and approve for current certified staff. Just a few leave of absence requests that are on tonight for your approval, and then we have some additional recommendations for upcoming summer assessment work. The supplementals that are on tonight, they're primarily for spring athletic events. And then moving on to our classified agenda, there's 2 retirements and then 6 resignations. The retirements, Earl Miller retiring as a bus driver with 14 years in Dublin. And then Chong Mieng is retiring as a bilingual aide with 21 years in Dublin. We also have 4 new hires and then several salary changes and some unpaid leave requests that require your approval. And then last is the stipends. You'll see 6 stipends that are on tonight. The first 5 are to approve chaperones for each of the middle schools to attend the 8th grade Washington, D.C. trip coming up this spring. And then the final one's a revision to a previously approved stipend for mentors that are working with our newer teachers who hold a resident educator license. And that concludes the HR portion of tonight's agenda.
It is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approve items 14A through 14C. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. De Silva. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. McLean. Please call the roll.
Mrs. De Silva?
Yes.
Mrs. McLean?
Yes.
Ms. Seward?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
And Mrs. Messick?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. This time it is time to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. De Silva. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Seward. Please call the roll.
I know.
Mrs. De Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Seward?
Yes.
Mrs. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
And Mrs. Messick?
Yes, we are adjourned.